I done heard time and time again that you cannot grow in your comfort zone. You need to expand, you gotta push your limits, you gotta see what's out there, you gotta explore the world. And I just wanna make a clear distinction between comfort and familiarity. Because with comfort, there's this assumption or this implication that if you're in your comfort zone, that means you're safe, you're cozy, everything is stable, and you're good. And you don't have to move from that zone because all your needs are met. Yet, sometimes your comfort just stems from familiarity. And oftentimes, I've found where I would be familiar with X, Y, and Z, this, that, and the third. And then I just derive comfort from it because I can predict the outcomes of a given situation. I can predict how I'm gonna respond to situations. I can predict something. Like there's comfort in familiarity where I know to a certain extent what's gonna happen next. Now with familiarity, that's not always being comfy and cozy and stable. But with familiarity is just I am familiar with this. And there's an ounce of control in it. There's an ounce of comfort in it, but it doesn't always mean that that's the most healthy situation to be in. That's the most beneficial space to be in, like physical space or head space. Because I can very well be in a physical location and still be miles away mentally. So when I consider that distinction between comfort and familiarity and how to expand that, to a certain extent, me just telling myself I need to get out of my comfort zone, that's not 100% productive, 100% beneficial, 100% effective. Because if there's one thing that I know I enjoy, and I know a lot of other living organisms enjoy, is stability. Now, creating stability for myself, that looks different depending on what stage of life, what phase of life, what season of life I'm in. And it's so intriguing. Like it's funny how I like connect myself to water. Like there's Spike Lee, not Spike Lee, Jesus. Jet Li, not Jet Li, Bruce Lee. Bruce Lee and his ways of just be like water, right? So with water, also my birthday is in July. I'm a Cancer and I'm a water sign. So if you're into astrology, go ahead, read me, feel free. But when I think about myself as water, I think about conforming to whatever situation I'm in. I think of being flexible and being able to adapt to instability and being able to thrive in ambiguity and learn, like knowing how to read a room or gauge the temperature in a given space or social context, what have you. But then I was like, okay. But recently I've been unpacking why that isn't always as beneficial as I think it is. Because if I'm always conforming to situations, if I'm always taking the shape of my container, then where does that leave room for me to be and like just be and just be comfortable with just being, no matter what the container is. Rather than me having to conform to the container, I can just be, and then the container is going to do what it do. But me being familiar with always taking the shape of my container, it's been holding me back in certain areas of my life. It took me 26 years to figure that out. But now that I'm figuring it out, it's like, oh snap, this one character trait of mine that I thought was so beneficial, it's like, nah, bro, it has its pros and cons, just like a lot of things in life. And just being familiar with taking the shape of my container and then making that seem like it's my comfort zone because, you know, I'm being flexible and I can thrive in ambiguity. It's like, but just because you feel comfortable with it doesn't mean it's going to serve you all the time in the best way possible. And with being familiar with how my mind works, or at least how I think it works, if I just keep playing those same routines over and over again, then it just becomes familiar. Then it just becomes a habit. Then it becomes just a pattern. And then I internalize it as a character trait. And it's like, oh, no, this is just who I am and how I'm supposed to be. But it's like, nah, bro, you got some choice. You can take the shape of the container, or you can be like, but no, though, I'm just not. I'm not going to fit. And that's cool. I don't have to fit. I don't have to ebb and flow just to make everything else around me flow. Like, I don't have to be the one who conforms. I don't have to be the one who agrees or the one who keeps the peace or the one who, you know, doesn't step on anybody's toes. No. Now, in making that realization, I'm not only stepping out of my comfort zone, but I'm also just expanding my comfort zone. Because I think a point of it, our comfort zone, at least the way I perceive it, it's a fixed space until we intentionally expand it. And to expand it, you do have to do things that are uncomfortable. Because it's not until I do it or I think about it or I experience it, like I have to experience it for me to become familiar with it. So like the more experiences, the more situations, the more deliberate actions, the more deliberate shifts in thought patterns that I do, that means I'm familiarizing myself with things that are beyond my comfort zone. I'm looking for things that I don't know about. I'm looking to learn from other people. I'm looking to learn about things that in the past I had taken for granted, or in the past I would have never even considered thinking about, or things that I already thought I understood to be true, but now I'm questioning my own biases and I'm questioning the things that I held so near and dear, or things that my parents told me, or things that I've heard other family members talk about, or things that I've seen my friends do. Like the key point with expanding my comfort zone and getting comfortable with being uncomfortable is just making sure that my comfort does not slip into complacency, and making sure that my comfort also doesn't set a bad example for other people who are looking and checking up on what I'm doing. Whether I realize it or not, I'm being watched. Anybody who knows me or doesn't know me, I'm being watched by somebody. Somebody who sees my life from the outside looking in. They see how I'm moving. So if I'm always operating from I'm only going to do what's familiar and I'm only going to do what's comfortable, then I'm operating in a limited capacity. And then if I'm operating in limited capacity, then I'm not encouraging other people to expand their own capacities either. And then if I'm just being comfy, and then other people see that and be like, oh, well, I can be comfy as well. And I'll just be here. Multiply that times 10,000 people. It's like, bruh, if we all just operating out of comfort and operating out of fear of the unknown, out of fear of ambiguity, then it's like, where are we gonna go as society, as humankind? The one thing that living organisms enjoy is stability, right? But another thing that is so intriguing is specifically like with humans, how we're honestly so creative and so curious and sometimes foolish in our quest for exploring. But if you never explore, then you never expand your comfort zone. You never engage with the unfamiliar. And I think that's so necessary for growth, so necessary for development, so necessary for passing down lessons to future generations. Because if we keep operating out of just routine and doing the same things that may have served us in a past season, but are completely irrelevant and outdated in a present season, then I'm just imposing limits on my own life and quote unquote shoot myself in the foot. So even as I record this is me expanding my comfort zone and expanding it so much to the point where I am comfortable with being uncomfortable in a way that's like me experiencing new things and me exploring unfamiliar territory in aspects of my own life. All of this is a very nuanced conversation, so let's be very clear about that. I'm not saying just go hurt yourself, but I'm saying too much comfort leads to complacency, and too much of anything, not the best. Get comfy with being uncomfy, because when you're uncomfy, you're forced to grow, and growth tends to be a good thing. So I'll leave you with this. Don't let yourself stop yourself from exploring yourself and exploring the world and doing what you can to make it better for at least one other person. Because in this life, we don't be living it alone. And contrary to popular belief, we really be all living the same lives, low key. To a certain extent, all of our problems are interconnected, but then all of our joys are also interconnected. So if I'm gonna live life in a way that can spread more joy, them problems, I think that's a pretty dope approach to this thing called life. So that's it.